So welcome everyone again. It's really nice to see so many people here. So this first panel highlight is on the topic personalized cancer care, when and how to adapt. And this is a really timely topic that we have, considering the main message we have for this conference, Online Adaptive Unleashed by Software. We will also have a lunch symposium tomorrow on the same topic. And we have put together a really interesting panel, I hope, at least. And we think that they will show some different flavor of the adaptive treatments, and that we can have a good discussion with them. We have representatives both from the photon side and from the proton side, so that's good to show a bit different flavors here as well. They are all working in clinics which have software from RaySearch, to some extent are using that. And they have experience with treatment of patients where online adaptations are performed or are aiming to do some such treatments in near future. But before I introduce them more in depth, I will introduce the moderators, so myself. My name is Stina Svensson, and I'm a senior research engineer at RaySearch. I've been at RaySearch since 2009, and it's true. It's true. And before that, I was in the academia working with image analysis research. And at RaySearch, I've done a lot of work on the adaptive workflows and dose accumulation workflows, almost only under the umbrella of the treatment planning system RayStation. But to do online adaptive, we need also some sort of, not only the software in the sense of the TPS, but we also need some sort of orchestrator, which keep track of how the treatment is going during the treatment course and so on. So therefore it's good to have my colleague B with me as a moderator as well.
Yeah.
Let's work more with that part of the software.
Indeed. My name is B. de Oost, and I work as clinical specialist for RayCare in the development team. I'm working with RaySearch since 10 years, and before that I was working as a medical physicist in Belgium. And as Stina was saying, we need an orchestrator to support online adaptive. And in the RayCare product suite, that's RayCare, and I'm working then with RayCare and contributing that to that aspect. So over to our panel now,
Yes,
Stina.
exactly. So over to the panel. So we have Geert from the Kerf, from Iridium in Belgium. We have Danny Schuring from Radiotherapiegroep in the Netherlands. And we have Richter from OncoRay in Dresden, in Germany. So different countries as well. Now, I would like you to introduce yourself. So shortly about the clinic, the settings you are in, and where you are at the online adaptive journey. So start from the left, right, yeah. Whatever.
So I'm Geert, medical physicist in Antwerp, working for the Iridium Netwerk. We work in different places for different sites that we have all through beams. And I think most important for this session is that we actually started with online adaptive, both using RayCare and RayStation, because that's the setup that we use. And we delivered actually the first online adaptive treatment actually on Monday. And by now we delivered already 3 adapted fractions using RayCare RayStation on the TrueBeam STX.
My name is Danny Schuring. I'm a medical physicist from the Radiotherapiegroep. We're one of the bigger radiotherapy centers in the Netherlands with 4 locations, and our experience in online adaptive is mainly with MR Linac at the moment. We treated well over 1,000 patients now, and we are now moving towards a online adaptive workflow for our Elekta Linacs, and then see if we can do that with RaySearch. We also did some research on using RayStation in the MR Linac workflow, but unfortunately we still can't do that clinically.
Yeah, my name is Richter. I'm head of medical physics at OncoRay, and we are a mixed photon proton clinic. We treat about 2,300 patients a year. We have MR Linac, Linacs, but today I will focus on protons, where we have a one-room solution where we treat patients since 2014, and we are working together with our partners in the so-called Proton Art Consortium. The partners are RaySearch, IBA, and the Particle Center in Leuven to really bring online adaptive particle therapy also into clinical reality and in the proton community, what is quite a big step.
Yeah. Great. So, a diverse panel that we have here. So, that was something about the panelists. Now, what about the audience? Where are the clinics that you are working on in this journey of online adaptation? Is it something that you've already started? Is it something that you're preparing to do? Or is it something that you are doing in some sort of daily routine? Please open your phones and scan the code and vote.
It seems that we have 6 answers, but Mentimeter is a bit slow to update. The page is empty. Okay, let's move on and review the answers later. So to set the scene a bit more before we then go into depth into the planning aspects, can you also share what are the clinical indications you are using online adaptive for? And Christian, can you start?
Yeah, for the protons, we are primarily focusing now on lung treatments in Dresden and esophagus treatments in Leuven within the Proton Art Consortium. So those are not easy indications, but indications where it's worth it to do the adaptation.
Okay.
So for the MR Linac, we do hyperfractionated treatments, maximum 5 fractions, and then prostate, pelvic lymph nodes, and a lot of stuff in the abdominal region like pancreas, liver, kidney, adrenal glands. And for the conventional Linacs, our first aim will be probably the prostate and pelvic lymph node irradiation.
Okay.
Yeah, we did start with bladder cancer for the simple reason that we do it on an STX machine, but we plan to look for cervical cancer as well and the palliative cases, and then without the CT simulation. Maybe prostate as well, but that's still under discussion.
Okay, so good to set the scene, and now we go into the planning perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So we know now that you are all RayStation users. And in RayStation, for the moment, the adapted plan is optimized using the same objectives and constraints as for the nominal plan. That's a rather straightforward approach that we have taken. It functions well, it's well validated and so on. But it also, I mean, when you're doing your nominal plan, you often do it in a sort of iterative manner. So you tweak your objectives and constraints and run more optimizations and so on. What are your thoughts on this? Will you modify the way you are working with a nominal plan? Of course, reducing margins, but also in the aspect of trying to, as fast as possible, optimize your adapted plan. And do you see alternatives to what we are doing now?
Of course I do.
But it's also interesting this with how you work with the nominal plan.
Yeah, for me, you should never change the way you make your nominal plan, because for me, if you go to adaptive, these things take time. And if you make less optimal plans initially, and that are maybe they are easier to optimize online, that might be possible, but then you will end up with more adaptations. And for me, if you aim for the best plan ever, like what we actually do today, then you could aim for trying not to adapt. And that's, for me, actually, that should be the main strategy. And then how to deal with a fast adaptation strategy, yeah, I think that's a perfect challenge for RaySearch. Make that as fast as possible. And there, in a way, I look more like, yeah, you have your nominal plan, and you just should mimic what you have. And that should be as fast as you can. And then I'm not that concerned about changing objectives. It's more like do or try to recreate what you actually had.
Let's see if others agree with that strategy.
Yeah, but I have a follow-up question, but maybe I keep that for later. Yeah, please continue, Danny.
I have a slightly different view on that, because once we started experimenting with the current treatment plans we have, we discovered that the way they are planned now with the offline setting, one thing is that they have a lot of time to create a plan, so they keep on optimizing the plan forever. And that also means that these plans they do multiple warm restarts, for example, and then make the objectives tighter. If you want to recreate that plan online, then you often see that it completely collapses. It doesn't stay robust anymore if the anatomical changes are there. So I think that you should do something about your initial plan to make it robust for the online adaptive setting, at least in our case. And another thing which you have to consider is the amount of time. So if there is additional time you can save by making these plans perhaps simpler or reduce the number of objectives or stuff like that, then you should actually do that for your online setting.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say one cannot one-to-one transfer the offline situation to the online situation like that. Then you end up in a situation as you do with your electronic patient file. If you copy it the same way as you did it before with paper, it ends up in a mess. So the same would be true for the treatment planning. So time is crucial, and time and so to say safety and easiness to judge if the plan is good. So I think I would more prioritize on this than on the perfect plan.
And then can I ask a quick follow-up question? So, Geert, you mentioned this, that you, of course, want to like mimic what you have at the nominal plan in whatever way you now do this nominal plan, easy or worse or something like that. To me, it's not clear what is actually meant by that, in the sense that is it like dose in each voxel? Is it trying to have the same DVHs, having the same clinical goal fulfillment, and so on? This with equal is not well defined here, I would say.
Yeah, in a way, it's I think more like on a voxel level, or a voxel level in contoured organs and target volumes. I follow the idea of robustness, but for me this fits in the same story to some extent, because making your plan robust should be robust also against adaptations. And I think you can make your plan as good as you want, but taking into account already maybe some scenarios that could happen at your Linac, trying to, again, not to adapt the moment you have to. And I think that's for me the way to go.
And on the other hand, I agree with your opinion that in the end, you want to have the option to adapt the plan or not. If the plan is okay for the current situation, then you should be able to irradiate that plan, because that still is the fastest way.
Okay.
Let's move on, I think.
Let's move on and talk about the session workflow perspective. So at RaySearch, we are proud of the solution we developed to handle the full end-to-end online adaptive session workflow for TrueBeam, now live at Iridium, as Geert announced. So our users can use their standard treatment equipment in combination with a swift and efficient workflow. So Geert, I hope you can elaborate a bit about this, and also our other panel members. I would like to ask if they explain a bit how they manage the online adaptive session, meaning the steps between then acquiring your daily image up to getting your adapted plan to your treatment machine. So who wants to be first?
Okay, then let's start with the proton.
Perfect.
So our workflow is currently for the first implementation, right? So we have to keep that in mind, that this is the first implementation, and then we will move on. In the first implementation, we will do a patient positioning at the gantry, then do an in-room CT, as both the centers have an in-room CT, and then we basically do a fast adaptation. Technically, it's more or less an offline workflow. And then we decide if we want to adapt, and then we approve the plan, and then we do a pre-delivery QA in two ways. First is the secondary dose calculation, and the second one is we implemented sanity checks, first for safety, to check that we really fulfill certain DICOM tests.
Yeah, we will talk more about QA in
Okay.
a later.
Then let's
later,
keep that for later.
yeah.
Yeah, then the treatment starts and so on. Important is we can't copy the MR Linac workflow that we do online adaptation for every patient every day because we can't do that in protons because we don't have a machine that is just dedicated for online adaptation, but the centers have 1 or 2 or 3 clinical rooms, and then they want to use that, and we can do only online adaptive if we do it kind of efficient and clever. So for our first implementation, we will do the adaptation workflow only twice a week.
Yeah. Okay.
So for the MR Linac, the workflow is more or less the same. You create an image before or at the start of fraction, then do the recontouring. There's not a lot of RayStation involved in there yet. So that's a whole different story. The main difference with the MR Linac is that you are forced to do an online adaptation always, because there's no option not to do it. So that makes it a little bit different from the implementations you want to have on your normal Linac, I think. And the challenge for us as an Elekta side will be the connectivity. Well, the connectivity itself is not a problem, but automation of all this connectivity and stuff like that. You can do it by hand, but you want to do that automatically to reduce the amount of errors and also to speed up things. And that will be the main challenge in our workflow.
Yeah, on TrueBeam, I think that the nice thing is that you have 3 decision points at which you can decide to adapt or not at all. You can do it just after you took the combing CT on the console of the Linac. If you then decide to send the data to RayStation, then actually it's very fast, and in 30 seconds the data is there, or even less. And then you can actually run a flow to just calculate the dose on the daily image, then again review, decide to adapt or not. And then I think the nicest tool about the RayCare TrueBeam integration is that you just have to you have to hit one button if you say I want to adapt my plan, and that's just a one click. That's taking I think a second, and then you have to wait for 2 more seconds and you can load the adapted plan in your TrueBeam. And I think that's a very nice integration of how smooth you can actually implement it.
Yeah, our Mentimeter question is not coming up, so I think let's go and move on to the next question then and talk about the QA perspective.
Let's move on to the QA.
That's important aspect
I mean, this is when we are talking about online adaptive with RaySearch project, we all very often get questions about QA. They can be different flavors. In general, how do we think about QA on the adapted plan versus the nominal plan? I mean, for sure, we don't have the same time for the adapted plan. What are your thoughts on those type of on the needs that we have here? How do you do it in your clinics? And also, since we have representatives both from the proton and the photon side, what type of differences do we need to think about here? You mentioned that you do with secondary dose calculation. That is what you aim for before you do the delivery, for instance. Is that needed?
Yeah, how we handle it today. For the QA, there are 2 things. You have the secondary dose calculation and all the plan QA. You also have more like the patient stuff. So for the moment, we try to keep our surface scanning system, which is from CERAT. We try to keep that alive, also in adaptive setting. Discussing about a bit more enhanced features there, but I think today it's working. And also for the patient plan QA, yeah, there are also some ongoing discussions with Nuclear to improve it. You can send the data, but of course, you have to wait for all the information to be processed, and that takes just too long. So for the moment, one of my colleagues just makes use of the bulk density overrides in RayStation to recalculate the dose on the combing CT, but just with a different approach. and it's maybe not, it's not checking your B models, of course, but at least it's checking your synthetic CT and these kind of things. And I think that's a good first step towards a fast QA. And then, yeah, I think you have to look to other companies as well. They have to, yeah, join the conversation and try to improve these workflows as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geert, and before you move the mic to Danny, you also, I think, have an idea how long that QA aspect will take in your workflow. Is that correct?
Yeah, when we do it now, it's an in-house written script. I think it's just 1 minute,
Okay.
maybe 2. I don't know, but it's not that long.
Yeah, that's good information. Thanks.
I think you really need to reconsider the way you are doing QA on the online adapters. As you already said, you don't have the time to do a lot of QA stuff. So you have to really think for each step: is it worth the effort I want to take in it? Is it worth the time it takes to do that? And actually, I've been involved in an ESTRO guideline committee, and we have now just submitted a guideline on this QA. And one of the main things that comes out of it is that you have to focus more on your workflow instead of the QA itself. So already in the workflow, you have to think about safety and stuff like that, and try to prevent errors even to happen, so that you don't have to do QA afterwards for that. And another thing is that you really have to do a cost-benefit analysis for every step you take, and only focus on larger risks. Don't try to catch these 0.5% errors or stuff like that. Focus on the big risks and which have big consequences. And otherwise, if you spend too much time on QA, then your patient model will be different, and your treatment will also be wrong.
So then, from a workflow perspective, what did you think is the most crucial then? And what was the end result of the committee?
A very clear procedure. Everybody has to know what its task will be. Everybody has to communicate very well. I did this. A second person has to check right away what the other one is doing during this online workflow.
Okay. So
Get the
streamlined and
safety,
swift.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Make it kind of like, well, in Formula One, for example, where they change tires. We have to get a team that does stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree to focus on the big arrows. So let's move on to the protons. What's different? Two things. The first thing is, in proton therapy, we are still doing a lot of phantom-based patient-specific QA. The second thing, we have to control not a two-dimensional problem like the fluence, but we have a third dimension with the range. That's the two things. So how we approach it in Proton Art and the daily adaptive workflow, a secondary dose calculation with an independent system, and secondly, we introduced an additional safety layer to also catch the workflow errors in terms of checking hard constraints, but also looking for differences relative to the original plan. So did we do something completely wrong? So this is the pre-delivery 2 elements, and afterwards log file based dose recalculation. I personally, so also in Dresden, we are also looking on another layer that is in vivo treatment verification with prompt gamma. We will use that now in a clinical study really to reduce the margins. So basically during treatment controlling the range. And that can also be a trigger for an online adaptation. So even if we don't do imaging before, we could also start the workflow by such a trigger signal. And in the online adaptive workflow, it gives us a safety layer.
Yeah. Another question on this would be then, I mean, now, Geert, you said that you had a separate script, and that script mostly use functionality in RayStation, I think. And Danny, you spoke about this with the guidelines and so on, because that's also a question. How much of this should we integrate in RayStation? How much is clear that it should be like done in the same way for all photon clinics, or can we agree on something? Do we do that in those guidelines?
I think you can do a few things in RayStation, maybe, but on the other hand, QA should always be as independent as possible.
Exactly.
So we also still use the in vivo epidosimetry, but that's a check you can only analyze after the delivery, so everything is a bit too late. but on the other hand, it's a way to catch the big errors. And I think if you can try to catch them because you have to catch them as fast as you can, and then in RayStation you have the advantage that you have full control of everything. The question is, do we trust you enough to rely on you?
Of course.
I will not answer that question here. But yeah, I think we probably need both, and it needs to be as fast as we can.
Yeah.
So in the guideline, we specifically also included some recommendations for vendors in there.
Yep.
And that's also stuff like that you should be able to get the relevant data out of it easily to create your own QA and automate it, for example. But also stuff like simple tools for just checking the consistency of your contours and stuff like that. I don't think we need to do that all ourselves.
No.
That can be done by vendors. And there's more stuff that should probably be easily be made in there.
Good. Okay.
Just to add one sentence, as we don't treat from the TPS but from the delivery system, so we have to get out of the TPS anyways.
Yeah.
So there needs to be control outside of that as well.
For sure. I mean, definitely.
So I think we are almost at the end of our session, I think. So we want to keep it within the 30-minute time slot. So we want to close our session here. Our members of our panel will be around. So if you want to talk to them or have some follow-up questions, please approach us. And thank you very much all for attending this first RayHub session here in ESTRO. Thank you.